What if I told you that for over 4 decades, deceased spirits regularly broke through the veil between worlds to describe, in stunning detail, exactly what happens the moment we die? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Now imagine this scenario. You're sitting in a quiet room, surrounded by medical doctors, university professors, and stenographers, all witnessing something that challenges everything mainstream science tells us about consciousness and death. A man named Edgar Cayce lies in a trance-like state, and through him voices from beyond begin to speak. Not just one voice, but hundreds of them, over the course of more than 40 years, each providing precise, verifiable accounts of their journey through death and into whatever lies beyond. Has this ever happened to you? That moment when you wonder what really happens when we take our final breath? That nagging question that keeps you awake at night, wondering if consciousness simply ends, or if something incredible awaits on the other side? Well, what you're about to discover might surprise you, because we're not talking about vague spiritual platitudes or wishful thinking here. We're talking about over 14,000 documented readings, each one meticulously recorded, witnessed by multiple people, and archived with specific reference numbers that you can verify today at the Association for Research and Enlightenment in Norfolk Beach. These weren't casual conversations or mystical ramblings. They were detailed, systematic communications that have been studied by skeptical researchers, medical professionals, and academics for decades. Picture this: spirits describing the exact moment of their transition, the beings they encountered, the realms they traveled through, and the profound revelations they discovered about the true nature of existence. Some of these entities had been hardened skeptics during their earthly lives, materialists who completely dismissed any possibility of survival after death. Yet there they were, communicating through Cayce, desperately trying to share what they had learned on the other side. What makes these communications even more extraordinary is that many contained information that could only be verified years or even decades after the readings took place. Spirits provided historical details, medical insights that weren't discovered until years later, and personal information about their earthly lives that was subsequently confirmed by family members who had never met Edgar Cayce. Stay with me until the end of this journey, because we're about to explore 3 mind-bending categories of revelations that emerged from these documented spirit communications. First, the detailed accounts of souls describing their actual transition from physical death to spiritual awareness. And trust me, it's nothing like what most religions teach. Second, the shocking discoveries these spirits made about the various planes of existence beyond our physical world, including realms where thoughts become instant reality and time operates completely differently than we understand it. And third, perhaps most importantly, the profound messages they brought back about what consciousness really is and what awaits every single human soul when our time here ends. These aren't comforting fairy tales or religious doctrine. These are documented testimonies from those who have crossed over and returned to tell us exactly what they found. What you're about to hear will fundamentally challenge your understanding of death, consciousness, and the very nature of reality itself. The evidence is overwhelming, the documentation is precise, and the implications are staggering. So settle in, because we're about to embark on an exploration of the most well-documented glimpse into the afterlife that humanity has ever possessed. And what these spirits revealed about our ultimate destiny will change everything you thought you knew about life, death, and what lies beyond. Now, here's where this whole phenomenon becomes absolutely mind-blowing and moves far beyond anything we could dismiss as coincidence or imagination. These spirit communications weren't just providing comfort to grieving families or sharing general wisdom about the afterlife. They were delivering specific, verifiable information that would prove their authenticity in ways that even the most hardened skeptics couldn't ignore. Imagine receiving detailed medical insights about treatments that wouldn't be discovered by science for another 20 years. Picture spirits providing historical facts about events that hadn't yet been uncovered by archaeologists, or revealing personal details about their earthly lives that could only be confirmed decades later when distant family members finally came forward. This is exactly what happened, over and over. Again, creating a trail of evidence that transforms these communications from mere spiritual curiosities into something that demands serious scientific attention. The transformation in how we understand consciousness begins when we realize that information was flowing through Edgar Cayce that simply couldn't have come from his own knowledge or imagination. These weren't lucky guesses or vague predictions that could be interpreted multiple ways. These were precise, specific details that created a hidden truth about the continuity of consciousness that mainstream science is still struggling to accept. But perhaps the most profound revelations came when these spirits began describing the actual moment of death itself. Take reading 26:18, where a recently departed soul shared the intimate details of his transition in a way that completely revolutionizes our understanding of what dying actually feels like. This wasn't the terrifying, painful ordeal that most of us fear. Instead, he described experiencing what he called a gentle lifting sensation, as if invisible hands were carefully drawing him upward from his physical form. The impact of this revelation cannot be overstated. Here was someone who had just experienced death firsthand, and he was telling us that the process was completely painless and filled with an overwhelming sense of peace and freedom. Think about how this changes everything we've been taught to fear about our final moments. This spirit wasn't speaking in metaphors or religious symbolism. He was providing a direct, eyewitness account of the most universal human experience, and it was nothing like the struggle or suffering we've been conditioned to expect. What struck me most about this particular communication was the precision of the language. He didn't just say he felt peaceful or that everything was okay. He described the specific physical sensation of being lifted, the gentle nature of the transition, and the immediate transformation from physical limitation to spiritual freedom. This level of detail suggests we're dealing with genuine first-hand experience rather than wishful thinking or cultural conditioning. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic and explore what happened to this spirit immediately after that gentle lifting sensation, because what he discovered next challenges every assumption we make about individual identity and the nature of reality itself. Write in the comments, "This makes sense to me," if you're starting to see how these documented experiences might change everything we think we know about death. What this spirit described next provides perhaps the most detailed behind-the-scenes look at the actual mechanics of how consciousness separates from the physical body. He explained that he could see what appeared to be a silver cord connecting his spiritual form to his physical body, like an ethereal umbilical cord that had sustained the connection between his soul and flesh throughout his entire earthly existence. This wasn't just a mystical metaphor or poetic description. He was observing, in real time, the dissolution of this cord as his consciousness completed its transformation from physical to spiritual existence. Think about the implications of this revelation. It suggests there's an actual energetic structure that maintains the connection between our spiritual essence and our physical form, and that death is essentially the natural severing of this connection, rather than the destruction of consciousness itself. The precision of this observation fundamentally changes our mindset about what death actually represents. Instead of viewing it as an ending, we begin to understand it as a carefully orchestrated transition, a process with specific mechanics that unfold in an orderly, peaceful manner. This spirit was essentially providing us with a roadmap of our own future journey, describing the exact process we'll all experience when our time comes. But what happened? After that, cord dissolved completely transforms everything we think we know about the nature of reality itself. This soul found himself in what he described as a realm of soft golden light. And here's where the story takes a turn that challenges our most basic assumptions about how existence works. In this dimension, thoughts didn't just influence reality, they became reality instantly. Picture this. If he thought of a beautiful garden, it materialized around him immediately. If he desired to see a loved one who had passed before him, they appeared without delay. This isn't some fantasy or wishful thinking. This is a documented account of how consciousness operates when freed from the limitations of physical matter. The impact of this revelation suggests that what we call imagination might actually be our soul's memory of how existence truly functions in its natural state. This hidden truth about instant manifestation reveals something profound about the power of consciousness itself. During our earthly lives, we're used to the delay between thought and reality, the struggle to make our visions become physical truth. But this spirit was describing a realm where that delay simply doesn't exist, where the creative power of consciousness operates without the resistance of physical matter. What strikes me most about this account is how it reframes everything we understand about the relationship between mind and reality. We spend our entire lives learning to accept the limitations of physical existence, never realizing that these constraints might be temporary training grounds rather than permanent realities. This spirit was essentially telling us that the creative power we glimpse in our most inspired moments represents our true nature, not some impossible dream. Now, I want to explore what happened when this soul encountered other beings in this realm of golden light, because what he discovered about the welcoming committee that greets newly transitioned souls reveals a system of guidance and support that operates far beyond anything our earthly institutions could provide. Put down golden light in the comments if you're starting to understand how this changes everything about our relationship with consciousness and reality. The beings he encountered in this golden realm weren't the stern judges or divine authorities that most religious traditions have conditioned us to expect. Instead, this spirit found himself surrounded by what he described as his life review council, beings of pure love whose entire purpose was to help him understand the deeper spiritual significance of every experience he had lived through during his earthly journey. This revelation completely transforms our mindset about accountability and spiritual judgment. These weren't figures pointing fingers or keeping score of rights and wrongs. They were essentially spiritual mentors, radiating unconditional love while guiding him through a comprehensive review of his life's impact. The hidden truth here is that the universe operates on principles of understanding and growth, rather than punishment and condemnation. But what happened during this life review process reveals something about consciousness that will fundamentally change how you view every interaction you've ever had with another human being. This spirit explained that he could actually feel the emotions of every person he had affected during his lifetime. When he had shown kindness to someone, he experienced their joy and relief as if it were his own. When he had caused harm, he felt their pain with the same intensity they had experienced it. Think about the profound implications of this emotional connection. This wasn't some abstract lesson or intellectual understanding. This was direct, visceral experience of how our decisions create ripple effects throughout the lives of others. The impact of this revelation suggests that empathy isn't just a nice human quality, but actually represents a glimpse into how consciousness truly operates at its deepest levels. What struck this spirit most profoundly was that even when he experienced the pain he had caused others, there was no guilt, no shame, no punishment attached to these feelings. Instead, this emotional mirroring generated deep understanding and compassion for both himself and those he had affected. It was as if the entire process was designed not to make him suffer for his mistakes, but to expand his capacity for wisdom and love. This transformation in understanding reveals something revolutionary about personal growth and spiritual development. We spend so much of our earthly lives trapped in cycles of guilt and regret, never realizing that these emotions might actually be blocking us from the deeper understanding that real growth requires. This spirit was discovering that true accountability looks nothing like the harsh self-judgment we inflict on ourselves. The beings guiding this review weren't trying to make him feel bad about his mistakes or inflate his ego about his successes. They were helping him see the spiritual lessons embedded in every experience, showing him how even his failures had contributed to his soul's evolution and had provided learning opportunities for the people around him. Now, I want to delve deeper into what this spirit learned about the true purpose behind every relationship and encounter in his earthly life, because what these beings revealed about the interconnected nature of human experience will change how you view every person you meet. Write understanding in the comments if you're beginning to see how this kind of compassionate review might be exactly what consciousness needs to truly evolve. What became even more extraordinary was how this spirit began to understand the true nature of consciousness itself. Through his communication in reading 25.468, another entity revealed that awareness in the spiritual realm operates on multiple levels simultaneously, creating a completely different paradigm from our earthly experience of linear time and space. This isn't just about existing in one dimension or focusing on one thing at a time. This is about omnipresent awareness that spans across all dimensions of existence. Think about how this transforms our entire mindset about the limitations we accept as normal during our physical lives. We're conditioned to believe that consciousness can only be in one place, focused on one thing, experiencing one moment at a time. But this spirit was describing a state of being where awareness expands to encompass multiple realities simultaneously, where the boundaries we think are permanent simply dissolve. The hidden truth behind this revelation is that what we call consciousness during our earthly journey might actually be just a tiny fraction of our true awareness potential. We're like someone looking through a keyhole, thinking that narrow view represents the entire room, when in reality there's a vast mansion of consciousness waiting to be explored. But what really changes everything is who this spirit encountered as guides in this expanded state of awareness. These weren't religious figures or mythical beings. They were what he described as elder souls, luminous forms who had evolved through numerous incarnations and now served as mentors for newly transitioned consciousness. The impact of meeting these guides reveals a hidden system of spiritual education that operates far beyond anything we understand about learning and growth. These elder souls didn't communicate through spoken words or even the thought patterns we're familiar with. Instead, they used direct thought transmission, sharing entire concepts, emotions, and understanding instantaneously. Imagine receiving not just information, but complete comprehension, wisdom, and emotional context, all in a single moment of connection. This suggests that communication itself undergoes a profound transformation when consciousness is freed from physical limitations. What struck this spirit most deeply was the depth of love and wisdom these guides radiated. They weren't authority figures dispensing rules or judgments. They were compassionate teachers who had walked the same journey of spiritual evolution and now dedicated themselves to helping others navigate their own transformation. Behind the scenes of what we call death, there's apparently an entire support system designed to ease the transition and accelerate spiritual understanding. The decisions these elder souls had made throughout their many lifetimes had led them to this role of service, suggesting that our own choices and growth might be preparing us for similar opportunities to guide others in the future. This creates a beautiful cycle where those who have learned become teachers, where wisdom gained through experience becomes a gift offered to those just beginning their journey. Now, I want to explore what these elder souls revealed about the true scope of memory and identity, because what this spirit discovered about accessing his past life experiences will completely revolutionize how you understand who you really are. Put elder souls in the comments if you're starting to grasp how this guidance system might be operating in ways we never imagined. What happened next completely shatters our conventional understanding of memory and personal identity. This spirit discovered that in the spiritual realm, he could access not only memories from his recent earthly life, but also memories from all his previous incarnations. Imagine suddenly having access to a vast library of experiences, where every lifetime you've ever lived becomes available to your consciousness, like opening different books on the same shelf. This transformation in memory access reveals something profound about who we really are. The hidden truth is that the personality and experiences we think define us in this current lifetime represent just one chapter in an enormous story of spiritual evolution. Behind the scenes of our everyday awareness, there's apparently a complete record of every journey our soul has taken, every lesson learned, every relationship experienced across multiple lifetimes. Think about the impact this has on how we view our current challenges and relationships. What if that inexplicable fear you've carried your whole life actually stems from an experience in a previous incarnation. What if that instant connection you felt with someone you just met represents a reunion of souls who have known each other across many lifetimes? This spirit was describing a reality where our deepest patterns and connections make perfect sense when viewed from this expanded perspective. But what's even more extraordinary is that this expanded memory wasn't overwhelming or confusing. Instead, it brought a profound sense of understanding about the purpose and meaning of each lifetime he had experienced. Every incarnation revealed its place in a larger pattern of growth and learning, showing how each life had built upon the lessons of previous ones. The real revelation came when this same spirit, through reading 26289, described encountering what he called the Council of Elders, highly evolved souls who had completed their entire cycle of physical incarnations. These weren't the religious figures or divine judges that most spiritual traditions describe. Instead, they were advanced beings who had transcended the need for physical experience altogether, having learned everything that earthly existence could teach them. These council members represented the ultimate achievement in spiritual development, souls who had so completely mastered the lessons of physical incarnation that they no longer needed to return to earthly life. Their journey through multiple lifetimes had transformed them into pure wisdom, pure love, pure understanding. The mindset shift this creates is staggering. It suggests that our current struggles and challenges are actually part of a curriculum designed to eventually graduate us beyond the need for physical experience entirely. What struck this communicating spirit most profoundly was the incredible love and wisdom these council members radiated. They had achieved a state of consciousness that encompassed all the lessons, all the growth, all the understanding that comes from completing the full cycle of spiritual education through physical incarnation. Now I want to explore what these council members revealed about the true nature of spiritual judgment and accountability, because what this spirit learned about the life review process will fundamentally change how you view every decision you make in your current lifetime. Write past lives in the comments if you're beginning to understand how this expanded view of identity changes everything about who you think you are. Standing before these luminous council members, this spirit found himself in what he described as a hall of learning, and what happened there transforms everything we think we know about accountability and spiritual growth. The life review didn't occur as some external judgment imposed upon him. Instead, it happened automatically as a natural function of his expanded spiritual consciousness, like stepping into a room where everything suddenly becomes illuminated. This revelation changes our entire mindset about responsibility and consequences. The hidden truth is that judgment doesn't come from outside authorities keeping score of our actions. Instead, it emerges from our own expanded awareness when we're finally able to see the complete picture of our earthly decisions and their ripple effects throughout the lives of everyone we encountered. The impact of this discovery is staggering because it means that spiritual accountability operates through understanding rather than punishment. This spirit could see not only his actions, but their effects cascading through time, touching lives in ways he had never imagined during his physical existence. Every conversation, every gesture, every moment of kindness or selfishness revealed its true significance when viewed from this expanded perspective. But here's what completely revolutionizes our understanding of personal growth and self-compassion. During this comprehensive review, instead of feeling shame or regret, this spirit experienced overwhelming compassion for his earthly self. For the first time, he could understand the spiritual lessons embedded in even his most difficult experiences, seeing how every challenge had served a deeper purpose in his soul's evolution. Think about the transformation this creates in how we view our own struggles and mistakes. We spend so much energy beating ourselves up for our failures, never realizing that behind the scenes, these very experiences might be precisely what our soul needs for its growth and development. This spirit was discovering that what felt like random suffering or meaningless hardship during his earthly life actually contained profound spiritual curriculum designed to expand his consciousness. Every relationship conflict, every professional setback, every moment of personal crisis revealed its deeper spiritual purpose when viewed from this expanded state of awareness. The decisions that had seemed like mistakes were actually perfect opportunities for learning. The people who had caused him pain were revealed as spiritual, teachers who had agreed to play difficult roles to help his soul evolve. This compassionate perspective extends to how we judge others as well. When you understand that everyone is navigating their own spiritual curriculum, that difficult people in your life might actually be providing exactly the challenges your soul needs for growth. It becomes impossible to maintain the same level of resentment or blame that keeps so many of us trapped in cycles of negative emotion. The journey this spirit was experiencing shows us that true spiritual maturity involves developing this same compassionate perspective toward ourselves and others while we're still in physical form, rather than waiting until after death to gain this understanding. Now, I want to explore what this spirit discovered about the long-term consequences of every action we take, because what he learned about the ripple effects of human behavior will change how you approach every interaction for the rest of your life. Put compassion in the comments if you're starting to see how this perspective might transform the way you view your own life experiences. What this spirit discovered about the ripple effects of human actions will fundamentally change how you view every decision you make from this moment forward. From his expanded perspective, he could see how every action created waves of consequence that extended far beyond what anyone could imagine during their earthly existence. A simple act of kindness he had performed decades earlier had created a chain of beneficial effects that was still continuing years after his death. Picture this. He watched as his decision to help a stranger with their groceries had inspired that person to volunteer at a local shelter, where they mentored a troubled teenager who eventually became a teacher, who then influenced hundreds of students throughout their career. The transformation rippling through time from one small gesture of compassion was staggering, creating positive impact across generations that he never could have anticipated. But here's where the revelation becomes even more profound and challenges our conventional mindset about good and bad experiences. Even his negative actions, the moments he regretted most during his earthly life, served purposes in the grand design of spiritual evolution. The hidden truth is that our mistakes often become catalysts for growth, not just in our own lives, but in the lives of everyone affected by our decisions. The impact of understanding this interconnected web of cause and effect reveals something extraordinary about personal responsibility. We're not just making decisions for ourselves, we're contributing to an intricate pattern of spiritual education that touches countless souls across time. Every choice becomes an opportunity to either accelerate or complicate the spiritual journey of multiple beings, including ourselves. What completely revolutionizes our understanding of human relationships is what this spirit revealed about the nature of every encounter we have during our earthly existence. Behind the scenes of what appears to be random meetings and coincidental connections, there's actually a precisely orchestrated system of spiritual education at work. This spirit explained that there are no accidental encounters between people. Every person you meet, every conversation you have, every conflict or connection serves a specific purpose in both souls' spiritual development. Think about the transformation this creates in how you view difficult relationships or challenging people in your life. That coworker who constantly irritates you, that family member who pushes your buttons, that stranger who was rude to you in line at the store. According to this spirit's revelations, these encounters aren't random annoyances, but carefully designed opportunities for spiritual growth. The journey of consciousness evolution apparently requires us to interact with souls playing specific roles in our spiritual curriculum. Some come as teachers disguised as friends, others as mirrors reflecting back our own unhealed patterns, and still others as catalysts forcing us to develop patience, forgiveness, or compassion we might never have cultivated otherwise. This perspective doesn't mean we should accept abuse or remain in harmful situations, but rather that we can approach every human interaction with the understanding that there's a deeper purpose at work, a spiritual lesson being offered through the dynamics of our relationships. Now I want to examine what this spirit discovered about the specific realms where healing and restoration occur, because what he learned about spiritual recovery will give you an entirely new understanding of how consciousness repairs itself after physical existence. Write "no accidents" in the comments if this is helping you see your relationships and encounters in a completely different light. Through reading 34122, we encounter perhaps one of the most transformative revelations about recovery and restoration in the spiritual realm. A spirit who had endured chronic illness throughout his earthly existence described discovering what he called the healing planes, where spiritual restoration occurs through an entirely different paradigm than anything we understand about medical intervention or physical recovery. This wasn't healing through treatments, medications, or surgical procedures. Instead, this spirit experienced restoration through alignment with what he described as divine love, a healing energy that penetrated every aspect of his spiritual being. The transformation was so profound that it dissolved not only the memory of physical pain, but also the emotional and mental patterns that had contributed to his illness during his earthly journey. Think about the mindset shift this creates regarding our understanding of health and disease. Behind the scenes of physical symptoms, there are apparently deeper, spiritual and emotional patterns that contribute to our earthly health challenges. This spirit was discovering that true healing addresses these root causes at the consciousness level, creating restoration that goes far beyond what physical medicine can achieve. But here's where this revelation becomes absolutely extraordinary and challenges everything we think we know about time and healing. The restoration this spirit experienced didn't just affect his recent incarnation, it extended backward, through time, healing similar patterns from previous lifetimes. The hidden truth is that the spiritual realm operates outside linear time, allowing for what he called multidimensional healing that can address issues across multiple incarnations simultaneously. Picture the implications of this discovery. Those chronic patterns you've struggled with your entire life, the recurring themes of illness, relationship difficulties, or emotional challenges that seem impossible to overcome. What if they stem from unresolved issues carried forward from previous lifetimes? This spirit was experiencing healing that reached across the boundaries of individual incarnations to address the deeper spiritual causes of suffering. The impact of this multidimensional healing suggests that our current understanding of recovery and personal growth might be severely limited by our linear perception of time. We approach healing as if we're only dealing with issues from this current lifetime, never realizing that some of our deepest challenges might require the kind of comprehensive restoration that can only occur from an expanded spiritual perspective. What struck this spirit most profoundly was how this healing process revealed the interconnected nature of all his incarnations. Each lifetime wasn't an isolated experience, but part of a continuous journey of consciousness evolution, and healing in the spiritual realm could address patterns that had persisted across multiple physical existences. This creates a completely different framework for understanding personal transformation and spiritual growth. Instead of viewing our current challenges as isolated problems to solve, we begin to see them as opportunities to heal deeper patterns that may have been affecting our soul's journey across many lifetimes. Now, I want to explore what this same spirit discovered about the conscious choices souls make before incarnating, because what he learned about pre-life planning will revolutionize how you view every challenge and relationship in your current existence. Put healing light in the comments if you're beginning to understand how this multi-dimensional approach to restoration changes everything about recovery and personal growth. What this same spirit revealed about the nature of earthly suffering completely transforms how we understand every challenge we face in our current lifetime. The difficulties he had experienced during his physical existence weren't random suffering or cosmic punishment. They were specific opportunities for spiritual growth that his soul had consciously chosen before incarnating, selected precisely for their educational value in his consciousness development. This revelation creates a profound mindset shift that changes everything about how we approach adversity. Behind the scenes of what appears to be meaningless hardship or unfair circumstances, there's actually a carefully designed curriculum that our own soul participated in creating. The hidden truth is that we aren't victims of random misfortune, but rather students who enrolled in exactly the courses our consciousness needed for its evolution. Think about the impact this has on personal responsibility and spiritual empowerment. Every challenge you're facing, every limitation you're working to overcome, every relationship that pushes your boundaries. These aren't accidents or punishments, but rather lessons that your soul specifically chose because they contained exactly what you needed to learn for your continued growth. But what makes this revelation even more extraordinary is how the selection process actually works. Through reading 4116 another spirit described attending what he called planning sessions with his spiritual guides, where they reviewed the lessons still needed for his soul's evolution. This wasn't a casual decision, but a careful, methodical process of examining his spiritual development and identifying the specific experiences that would best serve his continued education. The journey of choosing incarnation details involved selecting parents who would provide the right combination of genetics, environment, and relationship dynamics to create optimal learning opportunities. Geographic location was chosen based on cultural and social conditions that would present specific challenges and growth opportunities. Even the timing of birth was carefully selected to align with historical events and societal conditions that would serve his soul's educational needs. What's most remarkable about this planning process is how comprehensive it was. This spirit described how souls work with their guides to design not just the major life circumstances, but also the specific challenges they'll encounter. The health issues that will teach patience and inner strength, the relationship conflicts that will develop forgiveness and compassion, the professional setbacks that will cultivate resilience and humility. The transformation in understanding this creates is staggering. Instead of viewing difficult people in your life as sources of problems, you begin to see them as fellow souls who agreed to play challenging roles in your spiritual education. That difficult parent, demanding boss, or ex-partner who caused you pain, they might actually be advanced spiritual beings who volunteered to take on these difficult roles to help accelerate your soul's growth. This doesn't mean we should accept abuse or remain in harmful situations, but rather that we can approach every experience with the understanding that it contains spiritual curriculum designed by our own higher wisdom. The decisions we made before incarnating were based on perfect knowledge of what our soul needed to learn. Now, I want to delve deeper into what this spirit discovered about how souls work together across multiple lifetimes, because what he learned about soul groups will explain those inexplicable connections you feel with certain people in your life. Write soul planning in the comments if this is helping you see your life challenges as spiritual curriculum rather than random suffering. What this spirit discovered about the nature of soul relationships will explain those inexplicable connections you've felt with certain people throughout your life. He revealed that souls often incarnate in groups, playing different roles for each other across multiple lifetimes. The person who might be your parent in this current existence could have been your child, spouse, or closest friend in previous incarnations, creating a complex web of relationships that spans across centuries of shared experiences. This revelation transforms our entire mindset about family dynamics and intimate relationships. Those intense bonds you feel with certain people, the immediate trust or conflict that seems to have no logical explanation, suddenly make perfect sense when viewed from this expanded perspective. Behind the scenes of what appears to be chance encounters or family assignments, there's actually a carefully orchestrated system of souls choosing to incarnate together to continue their mutual spiritual education. The hidden truth about these soul groups is that they've been working together for ages, taking turns being teacher and student, parent and child, friend and adversary, each lifetime providing different opportunities for growth and learning. That difficult relationship with your sibling might represent an opportunity to heal conflicts that have persisted across multiple incarnations. The instant connection you felt with your partner could be the recognition of a soul you've loved and learned with across many lifetimes. But what makes this entire system even more extraordinary is what this spirit described about the observation planes. Through reading 294185, another entity revealed that souls in the spiritual realm can actually witness events occurring on Earth in real time. this isn't just theoretical knowledge about earthly existence. This spirit could see his family members going about their daily lives, observe world events as they unfolded, and even perceive the emotional states of people he had never met during his physical incarnation. Think about the impact this has on our understanding of connection and continuity after death. The journey of consciousness doesn't involve complete separation from earthly existence, but rather an expanded awareness that allows souls to remain connected to the physical realm, while experiencing the spiritual dimensions simultaneously. This spirit was describing a reality where love and concern for earthly souls continues and even intensifies after physical death. The transformation in perspective this creates is profound. Those moments when you feel like a departed loved one is somehow present with you, when you sense guidance or protection from sources you can't see, when you have intuitive insights that seem to come from beyond your normal awareness. These experiences might represent genuine contact with souls who are actively observing and participating in your earthly journey from the spiritual realm. What's most remarkable about these observation planes is that they're not passive viewing experiences. This spirit explained that souls in these dimensions often work together to influence positive outcomes for people still living on Earth, participating in what he called consciousness networks, where groups of spirits focus their combined mental energy to inspire solutions, provide comfort, and guide people toward better decisions. Now, I want to explore how this spiritual assistance actually works, and what this spirit learned about the delicate balance between providing guidance and respecting human free will, because understanding this process will change how you recognize and receive spiritual support in your own life. Put soul groups in the comments if you're starting to recognize these deeper connections with the important people in your life. The mechanics of how this spiritual assistance actually operates reveal something extraordinary about the delicate balance between divine guidance and human autonomy. This spirit described participating in consciousness networks, where groups of souls coordinate their efforts to provide help for people still navigating earthly existence. But the process is far more sophisticated than simply intervening in human affairs. These networks function like spiritual task forces, with souls combining their mental energy to create what this entity called influence fields around people who are struggling with difficult decisions or challenging circumstances. The transformation they can facilitate is remarkable, but it operates within strict boundaries that respect the fundamental principle of free will that governs human experience. The hidden truth about spiritual guidance is that it works through amplification rather than override. This spirit explained that souls in the spiritual realm cannot force anyone to make specific choices or impose solutions on unwilling recipients. Instead, they can strengthen positive thoughts and intentions that already exist within a person's consciousness, making it easier for them to recognize the voice of their own higher wisdom. Think about the impact this has on how we understand intuition and inner guidance. Those moments when suddenly you know exactly what decision to make, when the right path becomes crystal clear, when you feel a surge of confidence about a choice you've been struggling with. These experiences might represent spiritual amplification of your own inner knowing rather than external intervention. Behind the scenes of what appears to be personal insight or sudden clarity, there might actually be groups of loving souls working together to help you hear the wisdom that was already present in your consciousness, but perhaps buried under fear, doubt, or confusion. The journey of spiritual assistance involves clearing away the mental noise that prevents us from accessing our own higher understanding. What makes this process so elegant is how it preserves human dignity and personal responsibility while still providing genuine support. These consciousness networks don't make decisions for people or take away the learning opportunities that come from navigating challenges independently. Instead, they create optimal conditions for people to connect with their own spiritual guidance and make choices aligned with their highest good. This spirit described how these networks particularly focus their energy around people who are actively seeking guidance, praying for help, or genuinely trying to make decisions that serve not just their own interests, but the well-being of others. The mindset of the person receiving assistance plays a crucial role in how effectively this spiritual support can operate. When someone is in a state of fear, anger, or complete self-centeredness, it becomes much more difficult for these positive influences to penetrate their consciousness. But when a person approaches their challenges with openness, humility, and genuine desire to do what's right, they create optimal conditions for receiving this kind of spiritual assistance. The revelation extends to understanding how prayer and meditation work as communication channels with these consciousness networks, creating what this spirit described as bridges of light between the physical and spiritual dimensions. Now I want to examine what this spirit discovered about the two-way nature of this communication, because what he learned about how our prayers and intentions affect souls in the spiritual realm will transform your entire approach to spiritual practice. Write amplification in the comments if you're beginning to recognize how spiritual guidance might be working through your own intuition and inner wisdom. What this spirit revealed about prayer completely revolutionizes our understanding of spiritual communication and creates a profound transformation in how we approach our relationship with departed loved ones. When people pray for deceased souls, those prayers don't just provide comfort to the living, they actually create what he described as bridges of light that allow genuine two-way communication between the physical and spiritual dimensions. The hidden truth about prayer is that it operates as an energy exchange system. This spirit explained that sincere prayers for departed loved ones provide actual energy that helps souls in their continued growth and service work in the spiritual realm. Think about the impact this has on our understanding of grief and ongoing relationships with those who have passed. Behind the scenes of what we might consider one-sided communication, there's actually a dynamic flow of love and support moving in both directions. The journey of prayer creates something far more substantial than symbolic comfort. These bridges of light become channels through which departed souls can offer guidance, protection, and inspiration to their earthly loved ones, while simultaneously receiving the energy they need for their own spiritual development and service activities. This creates a beautiful system of mutual support that transcends the apparent separation of death. But what makes this communication system even more extraordinary is how it connects to the vast repository of universal knowledge that this spirit discovered. Through reading 53832, another entity described accessing what he called the Akashic planes, where complete records of every soul's experiences throughout all incarnations are maintained. This isn't just individual spiritual filing system, it contains the entire history of human consciousness evolution. The transformation in understanding this creates is staggering. Every thought you've ever had, every decision you've made, every experience you've lived through across all your lifetimes is apparently recorded in this cosmic library, but it goes far beyond personal records. This spirit described accessing the collective wisdom of human spiritual development, seeing how individual soul journeys contribute to the overall evolution of consciousness itself. What struck this communicating entity most profoundly was how this information exists, not as static records, but as living thought forms that can be accessed through focused intention. The mindset required to reach this level of spiritual knowledge involves developing what he called pure intention, approaching the search for wisdom with genuine desire to serve the highest good rather than satisfy personal curiosity or gain advantage over others. The impact of discovering this universal knowledge base reveals something extraordinary about human potential and the nature of inspiration. This spirit explained that accessing the Akashic planes doesn't require special abilities or mystical training. It requires spiritual development and the right approach to seeking wisdom. The revelations stored in these cosmic records contain not only the history of human spiritual evolution, but also the wisdom accumulated by civilizations and consciousness forms that have evolved far beyond our current level of understanding. Now, I want to explore what this spirit discovered about the scope of knowledge available in these records, because what he learned about accessing wisdom from other dimensions and advanced civilizations will expand your understanding of human potential and the sources of true inspiration. Put bridges of light in the comments if you're beginning to understand how prayer might be creating genuine connections with departed loved ones. The experience this spirit described of accessing Akashic information transforms everything we understand about learning and knowledge acquisition. In the spiritual realm, this vast repository doesn't function like earthly libraries with books and filing systems. Instead, the information exists as living thought forms that can be accessed through focused intention, creating an experience he described as stepping into a vast ocean of consciousness where every question about existence can be answered through direct knowing rather than intellectual study. This revelation completely changes our mindset about the limitations of human understanding. Behind the scenes of our everyday learning process, where we struggle to comprehend complex concepts through reading, studying, and gradual accumulation of facts, there exists a dimension where complete understanding can be received instantaneously through conscious connection with universal knowledge. The transformation this creates in how we view education and wisdom is profound. This spirit explained that accessing this cosmic database doesn't involve searching through information, but rather aligning consciousness with the specific knowledge needed, allowing entire concepts to download directly into awareness along with all their implications, applications, and deeper meanings. But what makes this discovery even more extraordinary is the scope of what's available in these records. The hidden truth about the Akashic planes is that they contain all knowledge that has ever existed, or ever will exist. This isn't just a repository of past events and accumulated human understanding. It's a complete database of infinite wisdom that includes knowledge we haven't yet discovered, solutions to problems we haven't yet encountered, and insights that represent the ultimate potential of consciousness evolution. Think about the impact this has on our understanding of innovation and inspiration. Every great discovery, every breakthrough in science, every artistic masterpiece, every spiritual insight that has advanced human civilization might actually represent moments when individuals developed sufficient spiritual sensitivity to access this universal knowledge base. The journey of accessing this infinite wisdom requires what this spirit described as a certain level of spiritual development and pure intention. This isn't about intellectual capability or academic training, but rather about developing the consciousness qualities that allow connection with these higher sources of understanding. The decisions we make about how to use knowledge, the purity of our motivations for seeking wisdom, and our commitment to serving the highest good all influence our ability to access these profound revelations. What struck this spirit most deeply was how this knowledge exists not as abstract information, but as living wisdom that comes complete with understanding of how to apply it responsibly. The universe apparently has built-in safeguards that prevent access to potentially dangerous knowledge until consciousness has evolved to the point where it can be used for beneficial purposes, rather than personal gain or harmful applications. Now, I want to delve deeper into what this spirit discovered about knowledge from advanced civilizations beyond Earth, because what he learned about interdimensional wisdom sources will expand your understanding of where human inspiration truly originates. Write direct knowing in the comments if you're starting to recognize how true understanding might work beyond our current learning methods. What this spirit discovered about the true scope of available knowledge completely shatters our understanding of human potential and the sources of breakthrough inspiration. He described accessing not only Earth's Akashic records, but also the spiritual histories of other worlds and dimensions, encountering civilizations that had evolved far beyond our current level of consciousness development. The transformation this creates in how we view human progress and innovation is absolutely staggering. Picture this: entire civilizations that have solved the problems we're still struggling with, societies that have achieved harmony between technology and spirituality, cultures that have transcended the limitations of physical existence while maintaining their capacity to contribute wisdom to less evolved worlds like ours. Behind the scenes of what we consider the cutting edge of human advancement, there are apparently sources of knowledge from beings who mastered these challenges millennia ago. The hidden truth about human innovation becomes clear when we understand that many of our greatest inventions, artistic inspirations, and spiritual revelations throughout history have actually come from these higher dimensional sources. This spirit explained that breakthrough moments in human civilization often occur when individuals develop sufficient spiritual sensitivity to receive information from these advanced consciousness networks. Think about the impact this has on our understanding of genius and creativity. Those moments when scientists make discoveries that seem to come from nowhere, when artists create masterpieces that transcend their normal capabilities, when spiritual teachers receive insights that transform entire cultures. These might represent successful channeling of wisdom from civilizations that have already walked the path we're currently exploring. The journey of accessing this interdimensional knowledge doesn't require special technology or mystical rituals. Instead, it involves developing what this spirit called spiritual sensitivity, the capacity to tune consciousness to frequencies beyond our normal earthly awareness. The decisions we make about how to prepare our minds and hearts for receiving higher guidance determine our ability to connect with these wisdom sources. What makes this revelation even more extraordinary is how it reframes our understanding of human responsibility and potential. We're not isolated beings struggling alone on a cosmic rock somewhere in space. Instead, we're part of a vast network of consciousness evolution that spans multiple dimensions and includes civilizations willing to share their hard-won wisdom with those ready to receive it. The mindset shift this creates is profound. Instead of viewing ourselves as limited by our current technological and spiritual development, we begin to understand that we have access to the accumulated wisdom of beings who have successfully navigated every challenge we face. The question isn't whether solutions exist to our problems, but whether we've developed sufficient consciousness, sensitivity to receive the guidance that's constantly being offered. This spirit described how the process works through what he called resonance matching. Our consciousness must vibrate at a frequency compatible with the wisdom we're seeking to receive. Fear, ego, and selfish intentions create static that blocks these transmissions, while love, humility, and genuine desire to serve others create optimal conditions for receiving higher guidance. Now, I want to explore what this spirit learned about the ultimate potential available to every human being, because what he discovered about our connection to universal consciousness will change how you understand your own spiritual capabilities. Put higher guidance in the comments if you're starting to see how breakthrough moments might be coming from sources beyond our normal awareness. What this spirit revealed about human potential will fundamentally change how you understand your own spiritual capabilities and connection to universal wisdom. Every person on Earth right now has the potential to access these same sources of interdimensional knowledge and guidance. The hidden truth is that what most of us consider to be our individual consciousness is actually just the surface layer of a vast ocean of universal awareness that connects all souls across all dimensions of existence. This revelation transforms our entire mindset about personal limitations and spiritual development. Behind the scenes of your everyday thoughts and awareness, there's apparently a connection to infinite wisdom that's always available, always accessible, always ready to provide guidance and understanding. The journey of spiritual awakening involves learning to dive deeper beneath the surface chatter of individual concerns to connect with this profound source of universal knowledge. Think about the impact this has on how you approach challenges in your daily life. That problem you've been struggling with, that decision you can't seem to make, that creative block that has you feeling stuck. The solutions might already exist within your expanded consciousness, waiting for you to develop the sensitivity to access them. The decisions you make about how to quiet your mind, how to approach spiritual practice, and how to align with higher purposes all influence your ability to tap into this universal awareness. But what makes this discovery even more extraordinary is what this spirit learned about the future of human civilization itself. He described seeing future potentials for our world recorded not as fixed destiny, but as probability patterns based on humanity's collective consciousness choices. This means that the future isn't predetermined. It's being created moment by moment through the combined thoughts, decisions, and actions of every person on the planet. The transformation this creates in our understanding of personal responsibility is staggering. Every choice you make, every thought you choose to focus on, every action you take isn't just affecting your individual life. It's contributing to the probability patterns that will determine the future of human civilization. Behind the scenes of what appears to be isolated personal experience, we're all participating in a massive collective creation process. This spirit could see how certain probability patterns led to breakthrough periods of human advancement, while others led to challenges and setbacks. What determined which patterns manifested was the overall quality of consciousness that humanity chose to express, whether we moved toward fear, separation, and conflict, or whether we chose love, unity, and cooperation. The hidden truth about global change is that it doesn't require everyone to transform simultaneously. This spirit observed that relatively small percentages of people making conscious choices toward higher awareness could tip the probability patterns in positive directions, creating beneficial outcomes for the entire humans. Family. Now I want to explore what this spirit discovered about how individual spiritual awakening contributes to this collective transformation, because understanding your role in this larger process will give profound meaning to every step of your personal spiritual journey. Write "universal connection" in the comments if you're beginning to understand how your individual consciousness might be part of something infinitely larger. Perhaps one of the most compelling communications that came through Edgar Cayce involves a spirit whose earthly journey perfectly mirrors the skepticism that many people feel about these very revelations. Through reading 26256, a former materialist skeptic described his profound amazement at discovering that consciousness continues after physical death. Despite having completely dismissed any possibility of survival during his entire earthly existence, this spirit's transformation from absolute disbelief to undeniable experiential knowledge creates a powerful testament to the reality of these communications. During his physical life, he had been the kind of person who would have dismissed everything we're discussing as wishful thinking or religious delusion. He had embraced the materialist worldview that consciousness was merely a product of brain chemistry, believing that death represented the complete end of individual awareness. The impact of his awakening in the spiritual realm was so profound that he felt compelled to communicate through Edgar Cayce, specifically to share this revelation with others who might be trapped in the same limiting mindset he had maintained during his earthly existence. Behind the scenes of his former cynicism, there had apparently been a soul that was just as eternal and indestructible as any believer's, waiting to discover its true nature beyond physical limitations. What makes his testimony even more extraordinary is how he described the continuity of his individual personality after death. This former skeptic retained all his memories, his distinctive sense of humor, his personal preferences, and his unique thinking patterns. The hidden truth about consciousness survival is that death doesn't erase who we fundamentally are. It simply expands our awareness while preserving our essential identity. He described the experience as being like awakening from a dream, except that the dream had been his physical life, and waking up meant discovering his true spiritual nature. The journey, from materialist certainty to spiritual awakening, hadn't changed his core personality, but had informed all his characteristics with a much larger perspective about the nature of existence and consciousness. Think about the transformation this creates in how we understand identity and the fear of death. This spirit was essentially telling us that everything that makes you uniquely you, your sense of humor, your way of thinking, your personal quirks and preferences, all of these survive the transition and become enhanced by expanded spiritual awareness rather than diminished by it. The decisions this former skeptic had made during his earthly life to dismiss spiritual possibilities hadn't prevented his consciousness from surviving death, but they had certainly limited his ability to prepare for and understand what awaited him. His communication serves as both reassurance for skeptics and encouragement for those already on a spiritual path to continue developing their understanding. What struck him most profoundly in his newfound awareness was how his earthly skepticism had been based on incomplete information rather than genuine wisdom, and how the very consciousness he had believed to be temporary was revealing itself to be the most permanent aspect of his existence. Now, I want to examine what this former skeptic discovered about reuniting with loved ones in the spiritual realm, because what he learned about the nature of spiritual relationships will provide comfort and insight for anyone who has lost someone dear to them. Put awakening in the comments if this skeptic's transformation is helping you understand how consciousness might truly be independent of physical existence. What this former skeptic discovered about reuniting with loved ones in the spiritual realm provides some of the most comforting and transformative insights in all of Edgar Cayce's documented communications. Through reading 349-17, another spirit described the reunion planes where souls reconnect with those they've loved, but the nature of these relationships operates on principles that completely revolutionize our understanding of love and connection. The hidden truth about spiritual reunions is that they're based on soul connection, rather than the physical or legal bonds that define earthly relationships. This spirit had lost his wife during his physical incarnation, and described their joyful reunion in the spiritual realm. But what he discovered about the nature of their connection went far beyond what he had understood during their earthly marriage. Behind the scenes of what appeared to be a traditional husband-wife relationship, there had been a profound soul bond that transcended their specific roles in that particular lifetime. The transformation in understanding this created was extraordinary. He found himself reunited not only with his wife from his recent incarnation, but also with soul companions from previous lifetimes who had played completely different relationship roles across multiple incarnations. Think about the impact this has on how we understand the depth of our connections with certain people in our current lives. That intense bond you feel with your spouse, child, or closest friend might represent a soul relationship that has been developing across centuries of shared experiences in various forms. The decisions your souls made to incarnate together repeatedly create opportunities for continued growth and ever-deepening connection. What makes these spiritual reunions even more beautiful is how love operates in the spiritual realm. This spirit described experiencing love that was far more expansive than anything possible during earthly existence. Instead of the possessive or exclusive nature that characterizes many physical relationships, spiritual love encompasses complete understanding, acceptance, and celebration of each soul's individual journey toward divine consciousness. The journey of love in the spiritual realm doesn't involve the fears, jealousies, or limitations that often complicate earthly relationships. This spirit explained that he could love his wife completely, while simultaneously celebrating her connections with other souls, understanding that every relationship contributes to each soul's evolution rather than competing for limited affection. This expansive approach to love extends to understanding how multiple soul relationships can exist simultaneously without conflict or competition. The mindset shift this creates is profound. Instead of viewing love as a scarce resource that must be carefully rationed, spiritual love reveals itself as an infinite force that grows stronger when shared more broadly. What struck this spirit most deeply was how this expanded love included perfect understanding of each soul's unique path and purpose. There was no attempt to control or change loved ones, no disappointment when they made choices different from what he might prefer, but rather a celebration of their individual expressions of divine consciousness. Now, I want to explore what these spirits revealed about children who transition to the spiritual realm, because what they discovered about the continuation of young souls will provide profound comfort for anyone who has experienced the loss of a child. Write expansive love in the comments if you're beginning to understand how spiritual relationships might operate beyond the limitations of earthly connections. What this same spirit revealed about children who transition to the spiritual realm will bring profound comfort to anyone who has experienced the heartbreak of losing a young soul. He described encountering children in the spiritual realm who appeared at their optimal spiritual age regardless of when they had passed from physical life, surrounded by what he called spiritual teachers who continued their education in love, wisdom, and cosmic understanding. This revelation transforms our entire mindset about childhood death and interrupted earthly development. Behind the scenes of what appears to be a life cut tragically short, there's actually a continuation of growth and learning that occurs in the most nurturing environment imaginable. The hidden truth is that these young souls don't remain frozen at their physical age of death, but instead develop to their full spiritual potential, under the guidance of advanced beings dedicated to their education. Think about the impact this has on grief and the fear that children who pass early somehow miss out on life experiences. This spirit described how these young souls receive comprehensive spiritual education that far exceeds anything possible during earthly childhood, developing wisdom, understanding, and capabilities that would take many lifetimes to achieve through physical incarnation alone. The journey of childhood spiritual development in these realms involves learning not just intellectual concepts, but experiential understanding of love, compassion, and cosmic truth. These children are apparently surrounded by the most qualified teachers in existence, souls who have completed their own spiritual evolution and now dedicate themselves to nurturing young consciousness with perfect patience and understanding. But what makes this revelation even more profound is how it connects to the larger understanding of why souls choose different lengths of earthly experience. Through reading 208:116, another spirit explained that the duration and circumstances of physical life, including childhood transitions, often relate to specific spiritual curriculum that serves not only the individual soul, but also the souls of parents and others affected by their brief presence. This same spirit revealed something that will fundamentally change how you view every challenging relationship in your current life. He explained that difficult relationships often represent opportunities for souls to balance karma from previous incarnations, with conflicts stemming from unresolved issues carried over from past lifetimes. The transformation this creates in understanding interpersonal challenges is extraordinary. Instead of viewing difficult people as random sources of problems, this perspective reveals them as souls working with you to heal patterns that may have persisted across multiple incarnations. Behind the scenes of what appears to be personality conflicts or incompatibility, there might be ancient, spiritual business being resolved through current lifetime interactions. The decisions you make about how to approach challenging relationships, whether with patience, forgiveness, and understanding, or with resentment, blame, and avoidance, apparently influence whether these karmic patterns get healed in this lifetime or continue into future incarnations. The journey of spiritual evolution often requires us to transform our habitual reactions to difficult people and situations. Now, I want to explore what this spirit discovered about the service work that souls perform to assist those still navigating earthly challenges, because understanding this spiritual support system will change how you recognize guidance and help in your own life. Put spiritual teachers in the comments if you're beginning to understand how souls continue their education and growth beyond physical existence. What this spirit discovered about the ongoing service work performed by evolved souls reveals a hidden support system that operates continuously behind the scenes of earthly existence. Through reading 137:125, another entity described what he called service planes, where highly developed souls participate in healing missions, focusing their combined consciousness to provide healing energy to people suffering from illness or emotional distress on Earth. This revelation transforms our understanding of healing and recovery in ways that challenge conventional medical thinking. The journey of spiritual service apparently involves groups of souls working together to direct healing energy toward individuals who are struggling with physical, emotional, or mental challenges. Think about the impact this has on those unexplained recoveries, sudden improvements, or moments of profound comfort that seem to come from nowhere during difficult times. Behind the scenes of what appears to be purely medical or psychological healing processes, there might be organized spiritual assistance being provided by souls who have evolved beyond the need for physical incarnation, but choose to remain in service to those still navigating earthly challenges. The decisions these advanced souls make to dedicate their spiritual existence to helping others reveals something beautiful about the nature of consciousness evolution. The transformation in mindset this creates is profound. Instead of viewing illness or emotional crisis as isolated individual struggles, we begin to understand that there's a vast network of spiritual support available to assist in healing and recovery. The hidden truth is that many people receive this assistance without consciously recognizing its source, attributing improvements to medical treatment, positive thinking, or simple good fortune. But perhaps the most beautiful revelation came through reading 4048, where a father's spirit communicated through Edgar Cayce to provide comfort to his grieving family. This loving soul revealed that death hadn't ended his love for his family but had actually expanded it beyond the limitations of physical expression. The impact of this message transcends individual comfort to reveal something fundamental about the eternal nature of love itself. This Father Spirit explained that love is the one force that transcends all dimensions of existence, creating bonds that can never be broken by death or separation. The journey of love apparently continues and deepens in the spiritual realm rather than ending with physical death. Described his expanded capacity to sense his family members' emotional states and spiritual needs, working with their guardian angels and guides to provide assistance within the bounds of their free will choices. What makes this communication even more extraordinary is how this father described the transition itself. He revealed that death is simply like stepping from a small, dimly lit room into a vast, beautiful garden filled with light, love, and infinite possibilities for growth and joy. The transformation from physical limitation to spiritual freedom wasn't an ending, but rather a graduation into expanded awareness and unlimited potential. The decisions we make about how to understand death and separation apparently influence not only our own experience, but also our ability to maintain connection with departed loved ones. This Father's message suggests that love creates bridges between dimensions that remain accessible to both sides when approached with the right understanding. Now, I want to explore the broader implications of all these documented spirit communications and what they reveal about the ultimate purpose of human existence, because understanding this larger context will transform how you view every aspect of your current spiritual journey. Write eternal bonds in the comments if you're beginning to understand how love might truly transcend the apparent separation of death. The profound revelations that emerged from Edgar Cayce's documented spirit communications paint a picture of existence that's far more beautiful, meaningful, and interconnected than most of us ever imagined. What we've explored together represents just a glimpse into the vast archive of evidence that consciousness survives death, that love transcends all dimensions, and that every moment of your current life is part of an extraordinary spiritual journey that extends far beyond physical existence. If these documented testimonies from the other side have touched something deep within you, if they've provided comfort, expanded your understanding, or simply helped you see death and life from a completely different perspective, then I'd love to have you continue this journey with me. Subscribe to the channel because there's so much more extraordinary evidence to explore together. Documented cases, verified communications, and revelations that continue to challenge everything mainstream science tells us about consciousness and reality. The fact that you've stayed with me through this entire exploration tells me something important about your spiritual openness and your willingness to consider possibilities that go beyond conventional thinking. If that resonates with you, leave me a comment saying, "This message was meant for me, so I know you made it all the way to the end, and that these revelations found the right person at the right time." And if you felt that same sense of connection and discovery that I experienced while researching these communications, a simple like would mean the world to me. It helps ensure that more people who are ready for these insights will have the chance to discover them. There's a video right here that complements this topic perfectly. It explores even more documented evidence from Edgar Cayce's readings about what consciousness experiences in those first moments after death. Click and continue with me over there, because what you'll discover next might be exactly what your soul has been seeking to understand.